So in this video, we're going to talk about the feet. Now the feet are really important. It's the foundation that the whole body builds on. If your feet aren't strong, you better believe that the rest of the body is going to have a really hard time being strong too. So we're going to talk about this a little bit, and I drew you a nice little diagram here of a foot. So just as a quick reference, because as I pull back, you won't be able to see it, but these green dots is a contact point, and this red dot is a balance point. So what I mean by contact point is just something that's actually hitting the ground, something that's touching the ground. The balance point is, as you can see by these lines, it's where they cross-section and where they just kind of converge. And that's where your weight is distributed. So let's talk about this for a second though. So this is the bottom of your foot, and we have these points that generally touch the floor the most. And so in my other exercise videos, you're gonna hear me say things like press into the big toe mound or the pinky toe mound or heel, or if we're working together with our sessions one-on-one, you may hear me use that dialogue a lot. So just to help you out here, what I mean by that, this is the big toe here. What I mean by the big toe mound is not the big toe itself. It's actually just like the base of the big toe, like the ball of the foot, really. So it's right there. The pinky toe mound, same deal. It's not the pinky toe itself, but it's the base of the pinky toe right there. And then finally the heel. Sometimes you may hear me talk about the inner heel and the outer heel, especially if we're doing any yoga work. But the inner and outer heel can sometimes be converged into one point on the heel. But for the sake of finding the balance point, we're going to think about the inner and outer heels. So all we've done is just cross the contact points together, taking opposite points, and then we have what's called the balance point. So this is kind of going into the realm of physics. So the foot is surprisingly complicated for something as simple as a drawing like this, right? So all of our weight is really distributed over this one red spot. As you note, it's kind of in the back of the arch of the foot. It's right in front of the heel. So if you just kind of stand, if you want to try that right now, we're going to run through an exercise as well. If you stand, think about all your weight is kind of distributed right over that arch. So again, that arch is well, an arch, right? But it creates a space. So if I have the floor on this bottom hand, the arch is overhead, the balance point is kind of back towards kind of like the heel of my palm. It's kind of floating. It's weird. Like, so all of our weight is distributed over a space, but it's suspended between these contact points, that big toe mound, pinky toe mound, and the inner and outer heel points. So very curious. So next up, we're going to look at an exercise just to bring a little bit more awareness to our feet, and we'll talk about why this is so important for things such as like squats and deadlifts and lunges. All right, so let's try out this exercise. So if you're standing up and you have the feet relatively close together, they can be about shoulder width apart, and the toes are pointing forward. So let's just bring a little bit of awareness to each of these contact points, the points that are actually touching the ground. So to help out with this, we can also think about picking up the toes. It kind of helps expose those contact points a little bit more. So first, I'm going to think about the big toe mound. So I'm going to shift my weight forward onto this big toe mound, the base of the big toe. So I'm shifting my weight forward. It's okay if you wibble wobble around a little bit, but we're just creating awareness. It's the equivalent of poking it with a stick. So just pointing at that particular point. Next, let's look at the pinky toe mound. So again, bringing our toes up. The pinky toe mound is the base of the pinky toe. So picking up their toes, shifting our weight forward, woo, and to the side. This one's the hardest one for me to balance. But we're really just lifting up our heel just a little bit. Again, just putting all of our weight, or most of our weight, woo, on that pinky toe mound. Again, it's okay if you wibble wobble and need to catch your balance. You can also hang on to a chair or a wall while you're doing this. And then go ahead and relax. You can step out the feet. And then finally, the heels. So we'll explore just the heels in general, and then we'll look at the inner and outer heels. So picking up the toes, gonna shift the weight backwards. It's more fun if you don't hang on to stuff. Kidding. If you don't feel safe, just hold on to something. Here, I'm not holding onto a wall. But again, just shifting back on our heels, just seeing what that pressure is like. And then the inner and outer heels we're gonna look at next. So the inner heel is on the big toe mound side. So again, shifting inwards. Note how the arches and the sides of the ankle fall in. We'll talk about that for squats and deadlifts in a moment. And then the outer heel, so on the pinky toe side, shifting outwards. Note how the big toe mound comes towards you and the feet are shifting away. Woo. So lots of fun there, right? So we're gonna combine these now. I'm gonna think about, again, picking up the toes. I'm gonna shift all my weight into the big toe mound. And then I'm going to keep the weight in the big toe mound, but I'm going to distribute some of my weight to the pinky toe mound. So I feel a little bit more balanced. So my heel is still lifted up. And now we're going to add the weight to the heel as well. Still picking the toes up. So hopefully, if you add them one by one, you feel the foot start to light up. You really start to feel the arches of the feet to light up. So I naturally have flat feet, so if I completely relax, my ankles are falling inwards, my arches are collapsed. But then this has been a very helpful exercise for me in making sure that I have those points in my awareness. So again, I'm going to pick up the toes. We can try it again, taking the big toe mound, distribute the weight to the pinky toe mound, and then finally to the heel. And now you may feel more balanced, right? Hence the balance point, where all that weight is centering about right in front of the heel. So if you just need a quick remembrance, think about pressing down into the balance point of the foot. Again, you can pick up the toes just for more awareness, but over time, as you get better and better, you can let the toes relax, and those arches of those feet are on. So next we're going to explore why is this important for some of the exercises that we're going to do, like the squats, the deadlifts, and the lunges. Finally, we're going to look at why having our feet active is so important for exercises in your program, like the squat, deadlift, and the lunge. So like your squat, I'm just going to go over just a very brief overview, because most likely these exercises are going to be in your program, and we'll go more in depth later. But your squat is about hip width apart. The toes are pointing forward. Now, if my feet are not active and I'm not aware of what they're doing, so for example, I'm flat-footed naturally, so I'm just going to completely relax my feet. You'll notice how my ankles will fall in towards one another. And if you watch my knees here, I'm activating my feet, I'm letting them go. My knees will actually turn inward a little bit. So they're kind of caving in towards one another. And really that goes all the way up the chain. So if you just kind of want to play around and just find how just one little thing with your foot can affect the rest of your body, you can have your feet active like the exercise we just did before. And then just let one foot collapse. You'll know how even my shoulder, I'm collapsing my right foot. If I collapse that foot, my right shoulder will actually turn inward a little bit. It's very subtle. But if you think about those actions day after day after day after day, how that will affect how your body is just presenting itself to the world, right? How you're going about your day, and also about future injuries, right? So the feet are very important from the bottom all the way to the top of the head. It's crazy. So looking at the squat, if I relax my feet, my ankles are caving in towards one another, which means my knees are caving in towards one another. And that's my biggest concern for this video, is protecting the knees. So the knee joints can either be affected by the ankles or the hips. And the ankles, of course, are affected by the feet. So if we have those active feet, so again, we can use our challenge here. So lifting up the toes, find the big toe mound, distribute to the pinky toe mound, distribute to the heel, find those balance points. Eventually you can let those toes relax, but the arches stay on. They're still very active. This becomes a very different squat then. As I continue to activate my feet, pressing down into the balance points, again, it's right in front of the arch, pressing down to the balance points of the feet, I'll push the hips back and lower myself down into the squat. Again, you can reach the arms out, and my knees are going to be tracking in line with the middle of the foot. Now, if I collapse my feet, instantly my knees go in, right? If people that have overactive arches, If they really activate those arches, the knees will go out. So it's kind of the opposite. So it's kind of a balancing active, not too much, but also not too little. We want just right, which is why it's very important for us to have an even distribution between the contact points, the big toe mound, pinky toe mound, and the heel points. And then raising up from there. You can also think about pressing down into the balance point as you come back up. It makes it just a little bit smoother. Now the deadlift, same thing. Stances maybe just a little bit narrower. It's exactly the same as the squat as far as the reasons why we need to have active feet. If I collapse the feet in, the knees cave in. As I lower down in my deadlift, the knees cave in even more. But if I activate the feet, bam, they instantly rotate out. Again, overactive arches will bring those feet too far wide, press into those big toe mounds and an inner heel point a little bit more, and it evens out. And then coming back up. So again, strong feet make strong knees, which makes strong legs, which really just makes a whole strong body entirely. And then finally, looking at the lunge, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. I'm gonna lower down in my lunge position. Same exact thing. If I let that foot collapse, I'm just focusing on the foot collapsing. My whole knee collapses in. It's crazy. Just one little part of the body, right? The feet are the foundation of the entire body. So my foot is collapsed in. That'll affect my knee. You may feel a little bit pressure on the inner knee and just does not feel comfortable, right? So again, think about pressing a little bit more on the pinky toe mound and the outer heel point, and it'll help correct that. If the overarch foot, the knee goes out, press a little bit more on the big toe mound and the inner heel, and then it'll even out. Again, you want that knee tracking in the middle of the foot, but again, it begins with the foot. Make sure those feet are active. And same thing, just to show you the other side of the foot. This is actually my worst foot, so it collapses in quite a bit. So if I pick up my toes, you can use the same thing. You can pick up the toes, find my outer heel point and outer pinky toe mound, but still keep the big toe mound, the inner heel, and I have it active now. And then eventually I can relax those toes down and then pressing back up. So again, there's just 3 examples why having strong feet makes a strong body. So you can do this just in your spare time, in the grocery store line, you're standing around washing dishes. This is an exercise you can do for your feet. The big toe mound, pinky toe mound, going to the heel. You can do this literally all day long and people will never know. But it's strengthening those feet. And it's best if you do this barefoot as well. And then throughout your program, you may see some foot exercises that will make these feet even stronger. I hope this video has been helpful on shedding light of the importance of engaging your feet properly. Not only does it strengthen your exercises from toe to head, but it also prevents injury. And if you've been injured before, it prevents it from happening again, especially if you have knee injuries in the past or had knee surgeries. I hope these exercises are a lot of fun for you as you're going about your day and your workouts.